In our previous video, Pius IX reminded us that the Church's undefined doctrine demands our assent, in spite of the desires of progressive innovators. Let us now conclude the question of what must I believe? Pope Pius IX continues with the same doctrinal protection for his sheep, where he states, "It is not sufficient for learned Catholics to accept and revere the aforesaid dogmas of the Church, but that it is also necessary to subject themselves to the decisions pertaining to doctrine which are issued by the pontifical congregations, and also to those forms of doctrine which are held by the common and constant consent of Catholics as theological truths and conclusions, so certain that opinions opposed to these same forms of doctrine, although they cannot be called heretical, nevertheless deserve some theological censure." There are few positions more commonly held and expressed by Catholics for millennia than the perennial Catholic positions on creation. These positions, regarded as sacred history, believed once and always, are not natural scientific conclusions. They are the teachings of sacred history, universally held, and are not to progress at the whims of the teachings of fables that are promoted by some, most, or all in any natural scientific field. Many who hold that the Catholic creation doctrines must be discarded due to scientific progress will commonly cite the so-called Protestant fundamentalists. However, these Catholic progressives regarding the doctrines of creation need not blame or ridicule the so-called Protestant fundamentalist. The liberal Catholic ridicule and mockery should instead be directed to Pope St. Pius X, who stated in 1907 that the following proposition should be condemned. Scientific progress demands that the concepts of Christian doctrine concerning God, creation, revelation, the person of the incarnate Word, and redemption be readjusted. In conclusion, we see from the sources cited that many modern Catholics fall short in assenting to doctrines that have been universally taught for millennia. According to the words of Father Frosinetti, Father Herbst, and Pope Pius IX, these problems include the most grievous rashness, grave temerity, erring grievously, grave sin against the faith. Although they cannot be called heretical, nevertheless deserve some theological censure. How often do the words of our Lord Jesus Christ need to be heeded? That indeed, the letter killeth, but the Spirit quickeneth. The letter of Catholic dogma must obviously be assented to, but the spirit of the dogma, including much doctrine that is not formally defined, must be fully followed. Grave sin against faith for following merely the letter reminds man of his obligations to further the glory of God. And although the laundry list of dogmas is included in this glorification, even while on earth, the spirit of the law of discussing, believing, and teaching the undefined doctrine of God's holy and indefectible Church allows and assists in the effective diffusion of grace to further the salvation of souls.